Beloved, there are moments in life when silence does not mean absence and delay does not mean denial. There are seasons when heaven seems quiet, not because God is absent, but because he is arranging something beyond human understanding. Tonight, I want you to understand this truth with clarity and conviction. God is about to move for you. Many people think that God moves only when they see signs. But the reality is that the greatest movements of God often begin in the unseen realm. Before the breakthrough appears in your life, before the answer manifests physically, before the testimony becomes visible, there is a divine orchestration taking place beyond what your eyes can perceive. You may have prayed and waited. You may have cried in secret and wondered why nothing seemed to change. You may have questioned whether your prayers reached heaven. But hear this, when God is silent, he is not idle. When nothing seems to be happening, everything may be aligning. There are moments in life when waiting becomes painful, when the heart grows tired of hoping, and when the mind begins to question whether the promises spoken over your life will ever come to pass. In such moments, many people assume that God has forgotten them, that heaven has delayed their answer, or that their time has passed. But the truth is deeper, more powerful, and more comforting than what the human mind can grasp. Divine timing is never late, never early, and never accidental. It is precise, intentional, and perfectly aligned with God's wisdom. Divine timing means that God does not move according to human pressure, emotional urgency, or societal expectations. He moves according to eternal knowledge. While humans see only the present moment, God sees the beginning, the middle, and the end at the same time. He understands what you need, when you need it, and how it must come to you in a way that will not destroy your destiny. Sometimes what you are asking for is good, but receiving it too early could harm you. Sometimes what you desire is right, but the season is not yet prepared to sustain it. When God delays an answer, it is often because he is protecting you from outcomes you cannot yet perceive. You may be asking for acceleration, but God may be working on preparation. You may be asking for visibility, but God may be building character. You may be asking for open doors, but God may be strengthening your capacity to walk through them without losing yourself. Think about the seasons of nature. No farmer plants seeds today and expects a harvest tomorrow. There is a hidden period where nothing seems to be happening on the surface, yet deep beneath the soil, life is forming. In the same way, there are seasons in your life when God is working invisibly. You may not see progress, but processes are unfolding. You may not feel change, but transformation is taking place. Divine timing teaches patience, but not passive patience. It teaches active trust, a trust that continues to pray even when answers seem distant, a trust that continues to believe even when evidence is absent, a trust that continues to stand even when emotions are weak. This kind of trust is not based on what you see. It is anchored in who God is. Many people fail not because God did not move, but because they gave up too early. They walked away at the edge of their miracle. They abandoned their calling at the threshold of breakthrough. They allowed frustration to silence faith. But divine timing requires endurance. It requires the courage to remain consistent when results are delayed. Sometimes God allows you to experience waiting so that your heart will mature. Because if blessings arrive before your spirit is ready, those blessings can become burdens. If opportunities come before wisdom is formed, those opportunities can become traps. God loves you too much to give you what will destroy you. There are moments when you compare your life with others and feel left behind. You see people rising, succeeding, celebrating milestones, and you wonder why your own story seems slower. But divine timing is personal. God does not operate with a universal clock for every destiny. What is right for one person may be wrong for another. Your delay is not your denial. Your process is not your punishment. Your waiting is not your rejection. When God is about to move, he often allows silence before the sound. He allows stillness before the shift. He allows darkness before the dawn. This is why you must not interpret quiet seasons as empty seasons. Sometimes the quietest moments carry the loudest breakthroughs. Divine timing also teaches humility. It reminds you that you are not in control of everything. It teaches you to surrender your anxiety, your impatience, and your need for immediate answers. It teaches you to say, even if I do not understand, I will trust. That is the language of mature faith. There is a mystery in divine timing that the mind cannot fully explain. God may delay something for years, then release it suddenly in a moment. He may close doors repeatedly, only to open one door that changes everything. He may allow rejection, only to prepare acceptance beyond imagination. He may allow losses, only to lead you into gains you never expected. If you are in a season of waiting, do not assume that nothing is happening. Heaven is not silent about you. God has not forgotten your name. Your prayers have not disappeared into the air. Every tear, every prayer, every moment of endurance is recorded in the unseen realm. Divine timing is proof that God's love is intelligent. He does not bless blindly. He blesses wisely. He does not move randomly. He moves purposefully. And when his time comes, nothing can stop it. No delay, no opposition, no limitation, no human opinion can cancel what God has scheduled. So lift your heart above impatience. Rise above discouragement. Refuse to measure your destiny by temporary seasons. Your story is not finished yet. The clock of heaven is still ticking in your favor. And when the appointed time arrives, what seemed delayed will suddenly appear. What seemed impossible will become reality. And what seemed silent will speak with undeniable power. Because divine timing is not about when you want it. It is about when God knows you are ready. And when that moment comes, you will look back and realize that every delay was protection. Every waiting season was preparation, and every silent moment was shaping you for a glory that could only come at the right time. There are dimensions of God's work that the human eye will never see until the appointed moment arrives. While you are praying openly, crying quietly, and waiting patiently, God is often working secretly. Hidden preparations are the unseen activities of God, the silent arrangements that take place beyond your awareness, shaping outcomes before they manifest in your life. Many people think God begins to work only when results appear, but the truth is that his greatest work often happens long before the evidence becomes visible. When God is preparing something for you, he rarely announces it loudly. He begins in silence. He begins in secrecy. He begins in the depths where only his wisdom can reach. You may feel ordinary, unnoticed, and forgotten. Yet heaven may be designing extraordinary outcomes around your destiny. Hidden preparation means that even when nothing seems to change, everything may already be aligning. There are times when you ask God for transformation, but he first changes your environment. There are moments when you ask him for elevation, but he begins by reshaping your relationships. There are seasons when you pray for breakthrough, but he starts by breaking internal limitations, mindsets, and fears. Because if God changes your situation without changing your capacity, you may lose what he gives you. Hidden preparation is God's way of ensuring that when the blessing comes, it will last. Think about the process of building a strong foundation for a house. Most of the work happens underground, unseen by passers-by. People only celebrate the visible structure, but they do not see the hours of digging, measuring, and reinforcing beneath the surface. In the same way, God often walks beneath the surface of your life. He digs deep into your character, your understanding, your faith, and your resilience. By the time the miracle appears, you may not realize how much preparation has already taken place. Sometimes hidden preparation feels uncomfortable. God may separate you from familiar places, reduce your circle, or lead you into seasons of isolation. You may feel lonely, misunderstood, or disconnected from what you once knew. But separation is often preparation. God sometimes removes distractions so that he can refine your focus. He sometimes allows silence so that he can sharpen your hearing. He sometimes allows loss so that he can teach you dependence. Hidden preparation also involves timing. God may delay certain opportunities not because they are wrong, but because they are premature. He understands the consequences of early exposure. He knows that some doors, if opened too soon, can expose you to pressures you are not yet equipped to handle. So he shields you in waiting, not as punishment, but as protection. There are people who think they are stagnant, but in reality, they are being positioned. They think they are behind, but in reality, they are being aligned. They think they are forgotten, but in reality, they are being remembered in a way that will soon become undeniable. Hidden preparation is often misunderstood because it does not feel productive. Yet it is often the most productive phase of destiny. When God is preparing something great for you, he often allows contradictions. You may experience moments where your calling feels bigger than your current reality. You may sense potential that does not match your present situation. This tension is not accidental. It is a sign that something is being formed beyond what you see. God sometimes allows your vision to grow faster than your environment so that you will not settle for less than your destiny. Hidden preparation also involves people. God may be preparing individuals who will play crucial roles in your future. Mentors, partners, helpers, and connections you have not yet met. While you are waiting, God is arranging meetings you cannot predict. He is aligning paths you cannot trace. He is orchestrating encounters that will look accidental but are divinely designed. At the same time, God may be preparing your heart for disappointment, teaching you discernment so that you will not trust blindly, and strengthening your wisdom so that you will not be deceived by appearances. Because not every open door is from God, and not every opportunity is aligned with your purpose. Hidden preparation sharpens your ability to recognize what truly belongs to you. Many people rush into blessings they are not prepared for, and as a result, they lose them. But God's hidden preparation ensures that when he releases something into your life, it will not collapse under pressure. It will not destroy your peace. It will not corrupt your character. It will not derail your purpose. If you are in a season where you feel invisible, do not despise it. If you are in a season where your progress seems slow, do not abandon it. If you are in a season where nothing makes sense, do not escape it prematurely. Because the hidden seasons often carry the greatest transformations. One day, when the manifestation comes, people will call it sudden. They will say it happened overnight. They will think it was luck. But you will know the truth. It was preparation. It was the silent shaping of God's hand. It was the unseen alignment of divine wisdom. It was the hidden process that made the visible miracle possible. So do not lose hope in the unseen. Do not underestimate the quiet seasons. Do not doubt the invisible work of God, because while you are waiting, he is working. While you are silent, he is speaking. While you are uncertain, he is certain. And when the moment arrives, you will realize that nothing was wasted. Not the waiting, not the tears, not the confusion, not the delays. Everything was part of a divine design. Everything was part of hidden preparation. And everything was leading you toward a destiny that could only be revealed after God had finished his unseen work in you. There comes a moment in destiny when pressure reaches its limit. When cycles that once seemed permanent suddenly begin to crack, and when doors that resisted for years start to respond to a force greater than human effort. This moment is not accidental. It is the moment when God decides to intervene. Breaking delays is not merely about speed. It is about divine authority entering a situation that human strength could not resolve. Delay is one of the most painful experiences of the human journey. It tests patience, challenges faith, and exposes hidden fears. When answers do not come on time, when promises seem distant, and when progress feels slow, the heart begins to wrestle with doubt. People begin to ask, why me? They begin to interpret delay as rejection or punishment. But delay is not always denial. Sometimes it is a sign that something larger than your understanding is being arranged. There are delays caused by human limitations, delays caused by wrong decisions, and delays caused by external circumstances. But there are also delays that exist because God is guarding a future that you cannot yet carry. Not every delay is negative. Some delays are divine filters that separate premature success from sustainable greatness. Breaking delays begins with understanding that time in the hands of God is different from time in the hands of humans. Humans count time with calendars. God measures time with purpose. Humans rush toward outcomes. God walks toward meaning. When God intervenes in a delayed situation, he does not just accelerate events. He reorders priorities, restructures foundations, and realigns destinies. Many people try to break delays with frustration, anxiety, and desperate actions. They force doors, compromise values, and accept shortcuts. But shortcuts often create long-term consequences. When God breaks delays, he does not bypass process. He redeems it. He turns wasted years into wisdom, painful seasons into strength, and silent moments into spiritual depth. There are moments when you feel trapped in repetition, doing the same things, facing the same obstacles, hearing the same negative voices. You may feel like your life is on pause while others move forward. But understand this, repetition does not always mean stagnation. Sometimes it means refinement. Sometimes it means God is strengthening your foundation so that when the delay breaks, you will not collapse under the weight of new opportunities. Breaking delays often begins internally before it becomes external. God first breaks the delay in your mind, in your expectations, and in your identity. Many people are delayed not by external forces, but by internal limitations. They believe they are unworthy, incapable, or destined to fail. When God moves, he dismantles these lies and replaces them with clarity and confidence. Because if your mind remains delayed, your life will remain delayed. When divine intervention arrives, it often looks sudden. What took years to build can change in moments. What seemed immovable can shift instantly. What looked impossible can become reality. This is not magic. It is divine authority overriding natural limitations. When God speaks into a delayed situation, time loses its power over destiny. But breaking delays is not just about receiving something faster. It is about receiving it in a transformed way. God does not simply restore what was lost. He often multiplies it. He does not only heal wounds. He often turns them into testimonies. He does not only open doors. He often creates entirely new pathways. There is also a responsibility that comes with breaking delays. When God accelerates your life, you must be ready to handle speed with wisdom. Acceleration without discipline leads to destruction. Promotion without humility leads to downfall. Influence without character leads to corruption. That is why God often delays before he accelerates. He ensures that when the delay breaks, you will not break. Breaking delays also requires alignment. Sometimes God is ready to move, but the person is not positioned correctly. Alignment is not just spiritual, it is practical. It involves decisions, relationships, habits, and priorities. When your life is aligned with divine purpose, delays lose their grip. When your heart is aligned with truth, stagnation loses its authority. If you have experienced long delays, do not conclude that your story is finished. Some destinies mature later, but shine brighter. Some journeys start slowly, but end gloriously. Some breakthroughs come late, but arrive with overwhelming impact. There are testimonies that could not exist without delay. There are strengths that could not form without waiting. There are insights that could not develop without silence. God sometimes allows delay so that when he finally moves, the glory will be undeniable. So do not surrender to the frustration of waiting. Do not allow delay to define your identity. Do not measure your worth by the speed of your progress. Your value is not determined by how fast you arrive, but by how deeply you are prepared. When God decides to break delays, nothing can resist his movement. Systems will shift. People will change. Opportunities will emerge. Doors will open. And what once seemed impossible will suddenly feel inevitable. The season of waiting is not permanent. The night of delay is not eternal. There is a moment when God steps into time and rewrites the script. And when that moment comes, delays will not just end. They will become evidence that even the slowest seasons were part of a divine plan, leading you toward a future greater than you ever imagined. There is a quiet but powerful principle that governs every meaningful transformation in life: alignment. Many people pray for change, ask for miracles, and desire breakthroughs, yet remain disconnected from the deeper will of God. Alignment with God's will is not about perfection. It is about direction. It is the process of adjusting your heart, your thoughts, and your actions to resonate with divine purpose rather than personal impulse. When a life is out of alignment, even sincere prayers can feel unanswered, not because God is unwilling to respond, but because the trajectory of the heart is moving in a direction that cannot sustain the answer. Alignment is like tuning an instrument. When it is tuned correctly, even a gentle touch produces harmony. When it is not, even great effort produces noise. Many people assume that God's will is mysterious and unreachable, but often it is revealed through subtle convictions, persistent inner nudges, and recurring truths that refuse to leave the heart. Alignment begins when you stop asking only, "What do I want?" and start asking, "What is truly right for my destiny?" This shift of perspective changes everything. Alignment with God's will often requires unlearning before learning. It may require releasing habits that once felt comfortable, detaching from relationships that drain purpose, and letting go of ambitions that look impressive but lead nowhere. This is painful because humans naturally resist change. Yet without this internal reorientation, external transformation remains fragile. There are moments when God allows frustration to push you toward alignment. You may feel dissatisfied with success that lacks meaning, tired of achievements that bring no peace, or restless in environments that once excited you. This restlessness is not always a sign of failure. It is sometimes a divine signal that you are meant for something deeper. Alignment often begins with discomfort. To align with God's will, you must learn to listen beyond noise. The world constantly speaks through expectations, trends, and comparisons. Alignment requires silence, moments where you detach from external pressures and confront your true motivations. In silence, clarity emerges. In stillness, direction becomes visible. Alignment also involves surrender. Surrender is not weakness. It is wisdom. It is the recognition that human understanding is limited and that divine insight is superior. When you surrender your plans, you do not lose your identity. You discover it. When you surrender your timeline, you do not waste your life. You redeem it. Alignment is not about losing control. It is about gaining purpose. Many people fear alignment because they think it will restrict their freedom. But true alignment does not imprison. It liberates. When your life is aligned with God's will, confusion decreases, clarity increases, and peace becomes constant. Decisions become easier because they are guided by purpose rather than pressure. Alignment is not a one-time event. It is a continuous process. Life constantly presents new challenges, new opportunities, and new distractions. Each stage requires renewed alignment. What was right for one season may not be right for another. Growth demands adjustment. Destiny demands flexibility. Alignment demands humility. Sometimes alignment requires patience. You may know what you are called to do, but not yet know how to do it. You may see the vision, but lack the resources. In such moments, alignment means trusting the process rather than forcing outcomes. Forcing doors that are not meant to open can lead to unnecessary pain. Waiting for doors that are meant to open leads to lasting peace. Alignment with God's will also shapes character. It teaches integrity when shortcuts are tempting, courage when fear is loud, and consistency when motivation is low. Character is the invisible structure that holds visible success. Without alignment, success becomes unstable. With alignment, success becomes sustainable. There are people who achieve greatness but lose themselves in the process. They reach heights but lose peace, gain influence but lose identity, acquire wealth but lose meaning. Alignment protects you from this tragedy. It ensures that progress does not destroy purpose and that advancement does not erase authenticity. When God is about to move in your life, alignment becomes urgent. He does not only change circumstances, he changes direction. He does not only open doors, he redefines paths. Those who are aligned recognize his movement quickly. Those who are not aligned often miss it or misinterpret it. Alignment also requires courage because sometimes God's will contradicts popular opinion. It may lead you away from crowds and toward solitude, away from applause and toward purpose, away from comfort and toward calling. But the reward of alignment is deeper than applause. It is fulfillment. If you feel lost, do not panic. Sometimes feeling lost is the first step toward realignment. If you feel uncertain, do not despair. Uncertainty often precedes clarity. If you feel delayed, do not quit. Delay often precedes divine acceleration. Alignment with God's will is not about living a perfect life. It is about living a purposeful life. It is about waking up each day with a sense of direction, even when details are unclear. It is about trusting that even when you do not understand the journey, the destination is secure. When alignment is achieved, life begins to flow differently. Opportunities align with preparation. Relationships align with destiny. Challenges align with growth. And when God moves, aligned lives are not shaken, they are elevated. So allow your heart to be adjusted. Allow your mind to be renewed. Allow your path to be redirected. Because alignment is not a limitation. It is the gateway to the fulfillment of destiny. And when your life aligns with God's will, you will not just move forward. You will move with purpose, clarity, and unstoppable momentum toward the future designed for you. There are moments in life when change does not come gradually, but suddenly, when the atmosphere shifts without warning and everything begins to move in a new direction. These moments are not ordinary transitions, they are supernatural shifts. A supernatural shift is not simply an improvement in circumstances, it is a transformation of seasons. A divine interruption that alters the trajectory of destiny in ways human effort could never achieve. Many people assume that life changes only through slow, predictable progress. They believe that every breakthrough must be earned step by step, and that transformation must always follow logical patterns. While effort and discipline matter, there are moments when logic reaches its limit and divine intervention begins. A supernatural shift happens when God steps into human limitations and introduces possibilities that did not previously exist. Before a supernatural shift occurs, there is often a season of pressure. Pressure stretches the heart, challenges the mind, and exposes hidden weaknesses. It feels uncomfortable, sometimes unbearable. Yet pressure is often the environment in which transformation is conceived. Just as diamonds are formed under intense pressure, destinies are often refined in difficult seasons. What feels like oppression may actually be preparation for elevation. A supernatural shift often begins invisibly. Nothing seems different at first. The environment looks the same. The challenges remain and the questions persist. But beneath the surface, something has already changed. Perspectives begin to shift. Priorities begin to realign. Desires begin to evolve. These internal shifts are signs that an external transformation is approaching. When a supernatural shift happens, it disrupts familiar patterns. What once seemed impossible becomes attainable. What once seemed permanent becomes temporary. What once defined your limits loses its authority. Suddenly, doors open that resisted for years. Suddenly, people change their attitudes. Suddenly, opportunities appear where none existed before. This is not coincidence, it is divine orchestration. A supernatural shift does not only affect circumstances, it affects identity. You begin to see yourself differently. You stop defining yourself by past failures and begin to recognize hidden potential. Fear loses its grip and courage emerges. Doubt weakens and confidence strengthens. This inner transformation is crucial because external breakthroughs without internal growth can lead to confusion and instability. Many people miss supernatural shifts because they are attached to familiar seasons. They prefer the comfort of known struggles to the uncertainty of new possibilities. But every shift requires letting go. You cannot enter a new season while clinging tightly to the old one. God often asks you to release what feels safe so that you can receive what is significant. Supernatural shifts also require sensitivity. They are often subtle at first, like a change in wind direction. Those who are attentive recognize the signs early. Those who are distracted realize it too late. Sensitivity is developed through awareness, reflection, and openness to change. When you are sensitive to divine movement, you respond rather than resist. There are moments when God shifts seasons, not because you asked, but because the time has come. Destiny operates on schedules beyond human understanding. You may feel unprepared, uncertain, or afraid, but a supernatural shift is not dependent on your confidence. It is dependent on divine timing. Sometimes God moves before you feel ready, because waiting longer would keep you trapped in limitation. A supernatural shift often rearranges relationships. Some people who were close may drift away. Some new people may enter unexpectedly. This can feel painful, but it is often necessary. Not everyone can follow you into your next season. Some relationships belong to your past, not your future. When God shifts seasons, he also shifts associations. Financial, emotional, spiritual, and professional dimensions of life can all experience supernatural shifts. What was stagnant can begin to flow. What was dry can begin to flourish. What was confusing can become clear. What was delayed can suddenly accelerate. These shifts remind you that life is not governed solely by human effort, but by divine purpose. However, supernatural shifts come with responsibility. When God changes seasons, he also expects maturity. New opportunities demand new discipline. New levels require new wisdom. New influence requires new humility. Without growth, a supernatural shift can become overwhelming rather than empowering. There are testimonies that cannot be explained by logic. Stories of sudden healing, unexpected favor, unplanned opportunities, and dramatic reversals of situations. These are not accidents. They are evidence that supernatural shifts are real. They are reminders that destiny is not fixed by circumstances, but shaped by divine intervention. If you are in a season where everything feels stagnant, do not conclude that your story is ending. Sometimes stagnation is the calm before a shift. Sometimes silence is the pause before a new sound. Sometimes darkness is the prelude to dawn. A supernatural shift does not always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it begins with a quiet decision, a new perspective, or a subtle change in attitude. But once it begins, nothing remains the same. The old season loses its power, and the new season begins to unfold. So remain open, remain expectant, remain courageous, because when God decides to shift seasons, he does not just improve your life, he transforms it. He does not just adjust your circumstances, he redefines your destiny. And when that supernatural shift arrives, you will realize that what once seemed impossible was simply waiting for the moment when divine power would change everything. There is a level of faith that does not depend on evidence, explanation, or visible signs. It is a kind of faith that stands firm even when logic collapses, when circumstances contradict promises, and when reality seems to mock hope. Faith beyond logic is not blindness, it is spiritual vision. It is the ability to see possibilities where the natural mind sees impossibility. To trust when the environment offers no reason to trust, and to believe when everything around you suggests giving up. Human logic is powerful, but it is limited. Logic operates within what is visible, measurable, and predictable. It calculates risks, analyzes patterns, and draws conclusions based on experience. But divine movement often begins where logic ends. If God only walked within the boundaries of human logic, miracles would not exist, destinies would not change suddenly, and hopeless situations would remain hopeless forever. Faith beyond logic begins when you accept that not everything in life can be explained before it is experienced. Many people want proof before belief, clarity before commitment, and assurance before obedience. But faith operates in reverse order. It believes before it sees, commits before it understands, and moves before it feels secure. This is why faith is uncomfortable. It challenges the need for control. There are moments when logic tells you to quit, to retreat, to accept defeat. Logic says, this is too late. This is impossible. You have tried enough. But faith whispers a different message. Do not stop. There is more. The story is not finished. Faith beyond logic is the courage to follow that whisper, even when it contradicts every rational conclusion. Many people misunderstand faith as denial of reality. But true faith does not ignore reality, it transcends it. It acknowledges the facts, but refuses to let them define the future. It sees the problem, but believes in a solution that does not yet exist. It feels the pain, but anticipates healing beyond visible limits. Faith beyond logic is often tested in seasons of contradiction. You may receive promises that seem inconsistent with your current situation. You may feel called to greatness while living in obscurity. You may sense purpose while experiencing failure. These contradictions are not signs of deception. They are training grounds for faith. God often allows gaps between promise and reality so that faith can grow stronger than logic. There is a loneliness in faith beyond logic. When you believe something others cannot see, you may face misunderstanding, criticism, and isolation. People may call you unrealistic, naive, or foolish. But many great breakthroughs in history began with individuals who refused to submit to the limitations of collective logic. They trusted a vision that only they could perceive. Faith beyond logic also requires endurance. It is easy to believe for a moment. It is difficult to believe for a season. When answers delay, emotions fluctuate, and motivation fades, faith must remain steady. Endurance transforms faith from emotion into conviction. It turns temporary inspiration into permanent strength. There are moments when faith beyond logic feels irrational even to yourself. You may question your own beliefs. You may wonder if you are deceiving yourself. But faith is not the absence of doubt. It is the decision to move forward despite doubt. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is action in the presence of fear. Faith beyond logic is not the elimination of questions. It is persistence in the midst of questions. When God moves, he often does so in ways that defy logic. He chooses unlikely people, unexpected methods, and unconventional paths. He lifts those who seem unqualified, opens doors that seem sealed, and creates opportunities where none existed. These actions remind you that destiny is not determined by logic alone. Faith beyond logic also reshapes identity. When you believe beyond evidence, you begin to see yourself beyond limitations. You stop defining yourself by past mistakes and begin to define yourself by future possibilities. This shift in identity is crucial because many people remain trapped not by circumstances but by their own perception of themselves. However, faith beyond logic is not recklessness. It does not reject wisdom, planning, or responsibility. It simply refuses to allow logic to become the ultimate authority. It balances reason with revelation, strategy with trust, and action with surrender. It recognizes that while humans plan, God directs. There are moments when faith beyond logic is the only thing that keeps you alive emotionally and spiritually. When everything else collapses, relationships, finances, health, expectations, faith becomes the anchor that prevents despair. It becomes the voice that says, hold on. When logic says let go, if you are in a season where logic has failed you, do not assume that hope is gone. Sometimes the collapse of logic is the beginning of faith. Sometimes the breakdown of understanding is the doorway to revelation. Sometimes the end of explanation is the start of transformation. Faith beyond logic does not guarantee that the journey will be easy, but it guarantees that it will be meaningful. It does not promise that you will never fall, but it assures that you will rise. It does not eliminate struggles, but it transforms struggles into stepping stones. When God is about to move in your life, he often invites you into faith beyond logic. He asks you to trust before you see, to believe before you understand, and to stand before you feel strong. And when you respond, you will discover that the greatest miracles are not born from logic, but from faith that dare to rise above logic. In the end, faith beyond logic is not about escaping reality. It is about redefining it. It is about declaring that what is visible is not final, that what is possible is not limited, and that what is logical is not the ultimate truth. And when you embrace this kind of faith, you will realize that the impossible was never truly impossible. It was simply waiting for faith that refused to bow to logic. There is a power in words that many people underestimate. Words are not merely sounds or expressions. They are carriers of destiny, instruments of transformation, and seeds that shape the future. Prophetic declaration is the act of speaking life into your destiny before it becomes visible, declaring what is not yet seen as though it already exists. It is not imagination. It is alignment between your voice and divine purpose. Most people speak based on what they see. When situations are difficult, they speak fear. When circumstances are delayed, they speak frustration. When challenges arise, they speak defeat. But prophetic declaration reverses this pattern. It speaks from faith rather than fear, from purpose rather than pressure, and from vision rather than visible reality. It is the language of those who refuse to let circumstances dictate their future. Prophetic declaration begins with understanding that your words shape your inner world before they shape your outer world. When you repeatedly declare negative outcomes, you train your mind to expect failure. When you constantly speak limitations, you reinforce invisible boundaries around your potential. But when you speak life, hope, and possibility, you begin to reprogram your mindset to align with a higher reality. This does not mean ignoring reality or pretending problems do not exist. Prophetic declaration acknowledges the problem but refuses to surrender to it. It says, I see the challenge, but I refuse to accept it as the final verdict. It is the courage to stand in the middle of uncertainty and still proclaim victory. Many people wait for evidence before they speak positively. They say, when things improve, I will believe. Or when I see results, I will speak confidently. But prophetic declaration works in the opposite direction. It speaks before evidence appears. It declares peace before calm arrives. It proclaims success before doors open. It announces healing before symptoms disappear. This is why prophetic declaration feels risky. It requires faith without guarantees. There are moments when speaking life feels unnatural. Your emotions may contradict your words. Your environment may mock your declarations. People around you may misunderstand your confidence, but prophetic declaration is not about pleasing people. It is about positioning your spirit. It is about aligning your voice with what is possible, not just with what is visible. When you consistently declare life, something shifts within you. Fear begins to lose its grip. Courage begins to rise. Clarity begins to replace confusion. Hope begins to overshadow despair. Even before circumstances change, your inner world begins to transform. An inner transformation is often the first sign that external change is approaching. Prophetic declaration also has a creative dimension. Words do not only describe reality, they create it. History is full of individuals who spoke their visions into existence long before the world believed them. They were called dreamers, idealists, and unrealistic. Yet their declarations became blueprints for transformation. There is also a discipline to prophetic declaration. It is not a one-time speech. It is a daily practice. It requires consistency. It requires persistence. It requires resilience. Declaring life once will not transform years of negative thinking, but repeated declarations gradually dismantle old patterns and build new realities. Many people sabotage their destiny with careless words. They say, I will never change. Things will always be like this. I am not capable. I am unlucky. These statements may seem harmless, but they become self-fulfilling prophecies. Prophetic declaration is the opposite of self-sabotage. It is self-liberation. However, prophetic declaration is not empty optimism. It is not shouting positive phrases without inner conviction. True declaration flows from belief, reflection, and alignment. It is rooted in purpose, not fantasy. It does not deny effort. It inspires effort. It does not replace action. It fuels action. When God is about to move in your life, prophetic declaration becomes essential. Before doors open, you must speak openness. Before chains break, you must speak freedom. Before restoration arrives, you must speak healing. Your voice becomes a bridge between your present reality and your future destiny. There are seasons when prophetic declaration is the only weapon you have. When resources are limited, support is absent, and answers are delayed, words become your lifeline. They remind you of who you are, where you are going, and what is still possible. Prophetic declaration also reshapes relationships. When you speak life over others, you change atmospheres. Encouragement replaces criticism. Vision replaces cynicism. Hope replaces despair. Your words become instruments of healing, not just for yourself, but for those around you. If you have been silent because you felt unworthy, now is the time to speak. If you have been negative because you felt tired, now is the time to declare life. If you have been afraid because you felt uncertain, now is the time to proclaim courage. Your voice is not insignificant. Your words are not powerless. Your declarations are not empty. They are seeds waiting to grow. Even when nothing seems to change immediately, do not stop declaring. Seeds do not sprout the day they are planted, but they are alive beneath the soil. In the same way, your declarations may not show instant results, but they are shaping invisible realities that will soon become visible. One day, you will look back and realize that the future you are living in was first spoken by your own voice. You will understand that before doors opened, you declared openness. Before chains broke, you declared freedom. Before destiny manifested, you declared purpose. Prophetic declaration is not about controlling the future. It is about aligning with it. It is about refusing to let fear write your story and choosing instead to speak life into every chapter. And when you continue to declare what is possible, you will eventually discover that what you once spoke by faith has become the reality you now live by experience. There comes a moment in every journey when the heart realizes that nothing in life is accidental, that every delay, every struggle, every silent season has been part of a greater design. What once felt confusing begins to make sense. What once felt painful begins to reveal purpose. And what once felt impossible begins to feel inevitable. This is the moment when you understand that God has been moving even when you could not see it. You are not forgotten. You are not abandoned. You are not stuck. You are in a process. Every season you have walked through has been shaping you, strengthening you, and positioning you for something greater than you imagined. The waiting was not wasted. The tears were not meaningless. The battles were not pointless. They were preparing you for the moment when divine movement would become visible in your life. As you move forward, do not let fear define your expectations. Do not let past failures silence your faith. Do not let delays convince you that your story is over. The same power that sustained you in hidden seasons will reveal you in open seasons. The same hand that guided you through darkness will lead you into light. And the same voice that strengthened you in silence will speak loudly in your breakthrough. Hold on to hope. Guard your faith. Align your heart. Speak life over your destiny. Because when God moves, he does not only change situations, he transforms lives. And when he moves in your life, it will not be ordinary, it will not be temporary, and it will not be hidden. It will be undeniable. So rise with confidence, walk with courage, believe with conviction, because this is not the end of your story. This is the beginning of a new season. And in this season, God is about to move for you in ways that will redefine your future forever.